can I just say that Rory Gilmore is one of those characters who went from being an absolute role model to a huge letdown. You'll see a lot of people online, Gilmore Girls fandom, talk about how she turned out to be really bad and terrible, entitled and arrogant. I kind of think people are quite dramatic when it comes to Rory. But I would also say that I believe that there were times that Rory did some questionable things during the show that made us see that she wasn't exactly a good girl anymore. But I definitely think that there were some circumstances and situations responsible for this dramatic transformation, and I want us to talk about it. A little bit about Gilmore Girls. I have to say, I had been seeing this show like on Netflix, like I had been seeing like the posters and the flyer for the longest time. I honestly thought it was one of those shows that, you know, they are so happy, everyone is always laughing, and you know, like a happy show, right? I wasn't entirely wrong, but it turned out to be more than that, because it showed the dynamic in the relationship between this family, both from the daughter to the mother to the parents. So let's talk about what the show really is about. Gilmore Girls is about a 32-year-old single mom who had a daughter at 16, and they were living in a small town. Now, they both had ambitions. The mom wanted to own her own inn. The daughter wants to attend Harvard. And so this show takes us through kind of the ups and downs, if you would, of them fulfilling their dreams, their relationships with men, and also Rory's grandparents and the pressure that it puts on Rory and her mom, and a lot more.
We're eating. Up. Let's go. It's fine. It's better. Then we can all be in bed by 9. Sit down.
Mom, tell us what is up right now.
What is up with what?
With you, with her, with you and her.
So let's talk about Rory Gilmore. Now, before I talk about her, I would like to point out that Alexis Bledel, I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right, who acted as Rory, actually had no previous acting experience before this role, and I think she did quite well. Brief background about Rory. She's the only daughter of Lorelai. Lorelai, as I mentioned before, had her at 16, so they are more like friends than mother and daughter. Rory is not your average teenage girl, in the sense that she's more interested in books, she didn't care about being popular, and she was quite friendly with her mom. Of course, it also helps that her mom was a co-mom.
Bus book.
No, the Malay is a biography, and sometimes if I'm on the bus and I pull out a biography and I think to myself, well, I don't really feel like reading about a person's life right now, then I'll switch to the novel. And then sometimes if I'm not into the novel, I'll switch back.
And we can't talk about Rory without acknowledging just how brilliant she was. She grew up in a small town. I mean, she was easily the best student in her class. We can't also ignore Rory's love for reading and her natural intelligence that kind of made her the golden girl in that town. Teachers would often adore her and praise her and, you know, tell her how great she was. Also, Rory wasn't just great at school. She was really organized, she was driven, she had dreams of studying at Harvard. When she eventually transitioned to Chilton Academy, she realized that she wasn't exactly the smartest in the room anymore. But this didn't stop her. She worked harder. After graduating at Chilton as valedictorian, she went on to attend Yale. This was her choice, because remember, her dream was to go to Harvard. She actually got accepted into Harvard, but she made a choice to go to Yale. From there, we see that she began to write for the Yale Daily News, and she was the editor towards the end of her studies. In the final episodes, we also see that she gets offered a job as a reporter to cover Obama's campaign. However, before this, we see some mistakes that Rory starts to make, especially, I believe, during her time at Yale. Up until this point, everything was going really fine with Rory. Rory was an A student. She was really smart. She was into books. So her life was, her life was quite happy, I would say. She wasn't really experiencing so many difficulties up until this point. Now, one of the things that Rory wasn't prepared for was when Mitchum, I think Logan's father, gave her an internship at one of his newspapers. And at the end of this internship, Logan is like, you know what? We actually haven't gotten a chance to talk about how you're doing at this place. Like, let's talk about it. So you can see the excitement on Rory's face almost immediately. Excited to hear what Logan's father has to say. And Mitchum literally goes,
and I have to tell you, you don't got it. Now, guts can be wrong. Mine's been wrong before, but not often.
Flat out tells her that he's not trying to sandwich his feedback, he's not trying to like be nice about it, he just tells her she doesn't have what it takes. And in my opinion, this should have been like feedback for her to use as, ammunition to fight and pursue her dreams, or at the very least get more clues on what she can change to be better and possibly even get mentored. But what we see here is that this feedback literally shuts her down. She's so disappointed. This is not what she's expecting to hear, because it's like this is the first time she's hearing someone tell her that she's not as good as she thinks she is, right? And this is not what she wants to hear. It is so obvious because from here you see her tell her parents what Logan's father said. You see her crying. It's obvious that these emotions that she's showing they are a product of her not believing that someone does not think that she's good enough, okay? Because she has always been led to believe that she is all that and she's perfect and there's nothing wrong with her. Another thing that raised her eyebrow about her was, when she was repeatedly cheating on her boyfriend with Logan and she didn't seem to regret it. It looked like she thought this was normal behavior. Also, that time when she had an affair with Dean, knowing full well that he was a whole married man. The time she also rejected a job offer at Providence Journal Bulletin because she wanted to be a part of the New York Times team, right? That was a big opportunity for her to really grow and learn, but she rejected it and it seemed quite illogical at the time. I want to talk about some of the reasons I believe that Rory made some irrational decisions, both professionally and personally, and some of the factors that might have influenced her poor decision making, I would say. And look, we all know no one is perfect. Even though Rory started out as the ultimate good girl with big dreams, it's not exactly out of place that she had a fair share of doing things that should warrant her literally being thrown into the naughty corner. I'll start with the first reason, and I think it was pressure. So Rory's mom got pregnant at 16, and her parents, particularly Emily, her mom, would always blame her for destroying her life at 16, and they would always fight about this. Some of these conversations happened in Rory's presence. It was clear that this girl had big expectations of herself, and sometimes you'll see this play out when she'll be sad that she had an A minus, or there'll be times where, for example, even what we just mentioned, where she literally fell apart after hearing Logan's father's criticism of her work. This is how we see that Rory had really big expectations of herself. She didn't also want to be let down because of the circumstances surrounding how she came about. So in a sense, she was under pressure to not be a letdown, right? And not to be a burden to her family, her mom, and even her grandparents. Another circumstance I would say that led to Rory's behavior and her being disappointed when she was told no. She was a big fish in a small pond for the longest time. And you can see that Rory thrived in Stars Hollow, the small town that she was in before she moved to Chilton. She was the smartest. Everybody praised her. They never had to question her abilities. But then when she moved to Chilton and then Yale, she faced students that were just as talented as she was and even more. And it was not easy for her to go from being the brightest star, right, to one of many. And so it was hard for her to handle, not being the best in a new environment, because that's just not what she's used to. One of the reasons I believe that Rory did some of the things that she did was because she always had a safety net, right? For example, she didn't take a job that she could have taken because, there was always that safety net. She was not trying to, in a sense, make ends meet or trying to be responsible for herself.
You're one of us. You went to prep school. You go to Yale. Your grandparents are building a whole damn astronomy building in your name.
That is different, okay? It's not like I live off a $5 million trust fund my parents set up for me.
Yeah, well, you're not exactly paying rent either.
Right? And so you would see that even though Rory lived most of her life without luxury because her mom, Lorelai, didn't ask for support from her grandparents for the longest time. Eventually, she found out that, hey, my grandparents are loaded. I really don't have to stress about the small stuff. And so, she was able to do things like take a break from Yale. And even when she needed tuition money, her grandparents were always there to help her out. See, she might not exactly have taken advantage of her safety nets, but you can't deny that the fact that she knew that it was always there could influence her actions. It could stop her from probably being more aggressive about taking opportunities, like being chill about the things that she shouldn't be chill about, I guess. What I'm saying is that the safety net could have been one of the factors that deterred her from becoming what she could, especially at that point in her life. And honestly, trust me, I still believe that from what the story is showing us, she's still quite young, right? There's still a lot for her to achieve. She still has her life ahead of her. So when people say things like, oh, how she turned out the way she did, as if what she was experiencing at 32 was all that she had to experience in life, I mean, I think that's over the top. So basically, yeah, like this safety net was definitely might have been a factor in her, probably not in a haste to make decisions or taking opportunities more seriously, or, being better prepared for the real life, the real world, besides just being great at school, right? The next I would say is really her failure in relationships. And I don't think that, to be honest, I don't think that it is far-fetched to say that Rory's issues with relationships might have been from the example that she saw with her mom and some abandonment issues with her absent father. And I'll start from there. With Chris, her father, coming in and going out every once in a while and not ready to commit to either being, in a healthy relationship with her mom or a present father to her, it was obvious that Lorelai wasn't exactly, seeing a problem with this, or she was seeing a problem with this, but she did not set the necessary boundaries to, ensure that her daughter does not see this as normal behavior or see this as an okay behavior. And this is possibly the reason why Rory was okay having a relationship with Logan when he was engaged, and even having an affair with Dean when he was married. And she was literally unmoved by this. Like, she felt it was normal, and I'll get to this more probably in a different video, but you would see that even when her mom confronted her about having an affair with Dean, who was married at the time, she literally was standing on business and saying,
He's not a married guy. He's Dean, my Dean.
He's not your Dean. He's Lindsay's Dean. You're the other woman.
who says that? How can you be calling someone else's husband your Dean? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Even when she came to her senses and, thoughts, figured that, okay, maybe what she did was wrong, she decided to write a letter. And in that letter, she stated that she did not regret what had happened. Like, that is the most unhinged TV character behavior I've seen in a while, right? And Dean's wife ends up finding this letter, and it literally breaks up their marriage.
Dean, I hate everything.
Let's just talk.
I don't want to talk. I don't want you here.
Sorry, okay?
You're sorry?
Yes, it will never happen.
Get out.
Oh my God.
You got my... Can you not?
Dare.
Well,
So Rory did some questionable, so she acted a bit weird, and I think that her behavior this way is not far-fetched from the fact that she did not probably see a lot of good examples on relationships as well growing up. So yeah, to be honest, I can't exactly say that I blame Lorelai 100%, because she also, had a baby at 16 and probably did not get the chance to really have healthy relationships. And now, who do we blame? Do we blame Emily and Richard? Honestly, I don't know who to blame, because Emily and Richard seem to have a really good relationship. They just had a bad parenting example. That's what I would say. Probably Emily and not Richard. I don't know. But like, in terms of relationships, I cannot blame Lorelai fully, and I can't blame Emily and Richard as well, because I don't think that they were bad examples to Lorelai. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you blame for Lori's issues with relationships, and maybe Lorelai's issues with relationships as well, because we can see that they both had issues, right? What do you think also about Rory? Do you think that Rory could have made different choices right? Or some of these factors were responsible for her bad decisions. I can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments. This was a pretty interesting video to do because their lives are quite simple, but there's a lot of complexity in, you know, how their lives play out, right? In how they're trying to achieve their dreams, in how they're dealing with disappointments, and how they're dealing with their parents and things like that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in next video. Bye.